It starts with our people at DentalXChange for sure. And the commitment that they showed to both current as well as new partners and prospective clients was unbelievable. To put the scale of that impact into perspective for DentalXChange, from a claim processing perspective, we were averaging, depending upon days in a month, somewhere between 5.5 and 6 million claims that we would process for the dental industry. We're over 25 million claims a month.
Hey there, dental economist. If you're a dentist owner or a leader within a dental business thinking about growing production, case acceptance, patient and staff satisfaction, positive outcomes, and everything else that comes with running a dental business, then you're a dental economist, and you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Dental Economist Show. We're meeting at the intersection of profit and purpose as I sit down with dental leaders who share their stories about dentistry, business, and growth. Paul, thank you so much. If you don't know, this is Paul Kaiser, CEO of DentalXChange. To start off our conversation, give him a round of applause.
First time cold plunger as of this morning as well.
That was your first time?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, congratulations. It's a big day. Now we're doing this. It's very exciting. So for those that don't know Paul, DentalXChange has been a longtime partner of ours, probably since almost the inception of DenTCon back in the early 2000s. They're probably our closest partner. And so we're doing a lot of work. You've seen from Mark, who went through Roadmap today, a lot of the different things that we're working on and that we're really excited about. We think there's the opportunity to do really cool things together in the dental space for our mutual clients. And if you're trying to pick a perfect partner to work with, DentalXChange has been that for us. So thank you for coming. We really appreciate you being here. First thing I wanted to talk about, I think like maybe the most important topic. So you're a Chiefs fan, and I hear you're also a bit of a Swiftie.
I am a Swiftie.
You are a Swiftie.
Yeah.
All right.
You're a Swiftie.
I might be a Swiftie.
Your wife might not be such a fan of your Swiftiness.
This is also, so you approve in the Super Bowl that you were at, Travis Kelce, who I'm assuming you're a fan of, exhibited some very concerning anger issues on the sideline, and he happened to push his coach after screaming at him. And as a Swiftie, I was personally concerned for Taylor Swift's safety at that moment. Do you still approve of this relationship?
I absolutely approve of this relationship. I think the kind of relationship that Coach Reed has with Travis allows for them to show great emotion and still have the utmost respect for one another.
Okay, well.
A side note,
yeah,
I am going to the Taylor Swift concert on July, what would it be, 14th or something like that in Milan, Italy with my family. It's going to be awesome. That's how much of a Swiftie I am.
Definitely win. That's awesome. All right. So there's been a lot of change in your world over the past few months. We were at the Chicago Midwinter, and we all heard at that moment about the attack that happened on Change Healthcare. And from that moment forward, I think you guys have been forced to do things in a much different way and scale and make a lot of changes to your business. I'm interested in hearing your perspective. From my viewpoint, you guys have done an amazing job of picking up the slack and really kind of diving into the breach and helping a lot of practices all across the country. How were you able to kind of scale up and respond so quickly when that was taking place?
That's a difficult question to answer. I would tell you that it starts with our people at DentalXChange for sure. And the commitment that they showed to both current as well as new partners and prospective clients was unbelievable. To put the scale of that impact into perspective for DentalXChange, from a claim processing perspective, we were averaging, depending upon days in a month, somewhere between 5.5 and 6 million claims that we would process for the dental industry. We're over 25 million claims a month. We'll do over 300 million claims this year. And so from an order of magnitude, it has been stratospherically different for us than what it was. And when you think about the three tentacles of success in software and technology, people, process, and tech, our people became Marvel superheroes in my mind in terms of how they behaved, the commitment that we had people sleeping in the office that didn't go home for days at a time. From a tech perspective, we didn't have tech sitting around in our cloud just waiting for 25 million claims to show up. We were sized appropriately and had to work immediately and overnight to acquire, to reconfigure, and then quite frankly, there was a period of time, 2 weeks in which we decided no one goes home for the weekend, and we re-architected the entire platform, separating components into what I'll call, from a layperson's perspective, separate and distinct swim lanes so that each could suck up the horsepower that was available to it on a unique basis. And that was super successful. And immediately when we turned everything back on Monday, we had like 30 times the technology horsepower available to us than we had before that. And we had gotten rid of bottlenecks. Before that time, we were literally metering claims so that we could help people get paid. So we would pick a partner, turn them on, get claims through, turn them off. Pick another partner, turn them on, get them through. And that was a very manual process for us. And so people literally were sitting in the office 24/7, just metering claims. That weekend that we re-architected everything was the saving weekend for us in terms of allowing people to go home. So it was an interesting couple of weeks to get to the scale on the tech side. It was an awesome couple of weeks watching our people and their behavior and their commitment to the industry and to DentalXChange's success and our partners' success. Can't say enough about our people. So it was awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like you made some decisions pretty decisively in how you were going to move forward without necessarily knowing how long this was going to be impacting change or impacting other practices. I mean, it seemed within the first week, it became pretty clear that it was going to be ongoing for quite some time. But you still had to kind of make these decisions about, are we going to scale? Are we going to refactor? Are we going to re-architect? And could it, just a few days later, could the issue be solved and maybe some of this is unnecessary? How did you weigh those decisions and decide what to do and how to move forward?
Well, I wish I could take credit for gambling and guessing right and being so smart that we ended up on the right side of that. So the truth is, the day that it was announced that Change Healthcare was down and they were having issues, we had enough, what I'll just call inside information, that we knew that they weren't, like immediately that day, we knew that they weren't coming back for, at the time, it was labeled as at least 30 days. And so in my mind, when somebody was saying, and that was coming out of conversations I was having with people that were well connected into Change. And so the at least part told me it's going to be longer than 30 days. Otherwise, it wouldn't be at least 30 days. And then when we were helping partners recover their client bases, that conversation was, there was optionality for those different partners. You could treat us like disaster recovery. Disaster recovery is more expensive. We have to make lots of investments that are short-lived. I have to have enough funding to pay off those short-lived investments that we carry for ages. Or you could treat me like a strategic partner and we can interact that way and contract that way. And to a T, as people were realizing what was happening around them, they all wanted to partner from a long-term strategic perspective. And so that was helpful too, that they committed.
As you look at the landscape now with clearinghouses and the options that are available out there in the market, we see that the cybersecurity threats are here to stay. We've seen it happen with companies across dental, and by all accounts, it seems that healthcare, the dental space in particular, are targets for those actors that are seeking to do, ransomware attacks and others. Now that this has occurred, one of the things that I hear in conversations is like, well, there's a whole lot running through DentalXChange now. How do you think about keeping things secure, maybe having it where the industry is a little bit single-threaded in a way? And, what is kind of your approach and strategy there?
First, goes without saying, I think this event with Change Healthcare would have caused and should have caused everyone to pause for a second and take stock and evaluate what is my, around people, process, and technology, what is my security posture and where do I need to double down, triple down, quadruple down? We've certainly done that, and we take security super seriously. I'll start with people because in our minds, and I'll get into some of the technology things that we're doing as well, but at the end of the day, the most vulnerable area that all organizations have to deal with is people. And it's phishing emails, and it's clicking on the wrong thing, opening the wrong thing, it's being fooled. And once somebody's in, they're in, and it only takes one. In our organization, we, through onboarding of new associates, they meet every ELT member, including myself, and I myself take them through the seriousness of security. We go through, example, phishing emails and things of that nature. We do monthly all hands, and in those all hands, we have sort of the carrot and the stick approach. On the carrot side, our Chief Information Security Officer sends out at least 2 fake phishing emails to the organization each month. If you're not fooled by one of those, your name goes in the proverbial hat we draw, out of that hat, and you get Amazon gift card if you're not fooled. and we recognize you on the all hands. If you are fooled, you immediately know because a screen pops up saying, gotcha. And strike one in a rolling 12-month period is within 7 days, have to go back and do all the LMS training around security and all those sorts of things. There's a strike two. Strike three is you're fired. You cannot work for us. That's how serious we take it. And we're very overt about that. We tell you that on the day that you get hired. If you cannot take security seriously, if you cannot pause and understand the seriousness of every email that you're about to look at, open, click on, and you are in such a hurry or you're lackadaisical enough to not care enough about this organization, you just can't work here. That's how serious we are about the people side. On the tech side, we're doing a lot of things to continuously improve and upgrade. We've just recently gone from semi-annual pen testing or penetration testing. We do it monthly now. We're replacing some security layers with a more contemporary, newer relationship with CrowdStrike that we have. We're actually enabling CrowdStrike to every single endpoint in our entire network. We're putting new mobile device management layers in place. We have always been high trust certified. We're now layering on SOC 2 Type 2 audits each year. And so there's a variety of things that we're investing in as well. Certainly, we have been the recipient of a tremendous amount of business as a result of Change Healthcare's unfortunate cyber attack. And so with that, we've obviously had to take a hard look at our security layers and make sure we're doing all the right things for the dental industry.
We've had an integration with you all for a very long time. And, when we demo the software, people are seeing a lot of functionality within the course of that demo that is really powered by the integration that we have with DentalXChange. In many ways, it's been a competitive differentiator for Denticon. A lot of the competition at the time or over the past number of years has been using Change. The level of integrations have not been as deep and the workflow hasn't been as seamless as what you typically see in Denticon. Now you're working with everyone. From your perspective, are there still benefits or advantages within the Denticon DentalXChange integration and relationship? And is it being handled in ways that are different than maybe what you're seeing with other partners out in the marketplace?
Yeah, certainly you guys are ahead of the curve for sure. And some of it probably goes back to the length of the relationship and you set up front the kind of relationship that the organizations have enjoyed. Some of the things that we discussed earlier and that Mark was showing on the screens in terms of the depth of those integrations and the contemporaneous of those integrations is really important to the dental industry. And it really has to do with creating transparency and intelligence to the interactions that have to happen with the insurance side of dentistry and consolidating that workflow and enabling that workflow all to be within Denticon. You guys are well ahead of anyone else that we're working with in terms of the adoption of those more contemporary APIs. If you think about the history here, when somebody submits a claim, all of the intelligence around will the payer accept that claim based upon their specific payer validation edits has been residing in Claim Connect, our platform. And so if the claim is going to get rejected, it pauses in Claim Connect. The user has to then leave Denticon, come to Claim Connect, work you. Now they've changed something about that claim in our platform. They'd have to rekey whatever they changed into your platform. Otherwise, you got two sources of truth, broken workflow, all those sorts of things. And I would admit that probably 3 years ago and before that, the then current leaders of DentalXChange probably thought there's great value in having users in Claim Connect. I think that there's very little value of having users in Claim Connect. I think if we can take the intelligence that exists in Claim Connect and expose it through a contemporary RESTful JSON API into the practice management system where all the workflow can be there, that is where we add tremendous value. And so we, over the last 2 years, had rebuilt every single revenue cycle management transaction that we've always supported in our legacy file-based integrations on that, what we affectionately call our XConnect API stack, which is a RESTful JSON stack. And that's what is being consumed. And we plan to continue to make those kinds of intelligent transactions available for consumption of Denticon.
Talk a little bit about the eligibility AI that you guys are working on. I know that there's some mutual clients that we're already starting to test that with. What is it that makes you excited about that? What's the value that you feel that that's really going to be bringing to the market?
If you talk to any office, they're invariably, one of their major pain points is they're having to spend too much time navigating payer portals. And every payer portal is different, and every payer's nomenclature about different data elements is different. And so with staff turnover, staffing challenges, every new person that you bring in your organization now has to relearn all these portals. And what they're hunting for is all the information that isn't being supported in the standard EDI transaction. It could be missing tooth clauses. It could be a number of things. It could be remaining maximums, things of that nature that not all payers support in the EDI transaction, or they're spending time on hold. There's one payer that in their EDI transaction, it's a major payer, it's a national payer, will only support up to 9 CDT codes at a time. So in order to get a full eligibility picture for a patient that's walking in the door, you have to do 9 transactions with that particular payer. And so the thesis behind eligibility AI is to leverage more contemporary technology to reach out using robotic process automation and large language learning models around AI to bring back screen scrape portals for all that information. So we have teams that map and tag portals, bring all the information that you need for a full eligibility response, things that aren't ever showing up in your classic EDI, making it available in a very contemporary user interface. And then consuming in partnership with you guys, the schedule book out of DentalEcon so that it all happens automatically. No one has to go hit go. They're looking at the schedule book. They're 10 days ahead of time, 7 days ahead of time, 5 days ahead of time, whatever you want to configure it to, running that eligibility. And then the workflow allows you to work by exception. So if it's not an exception, you don't need to work it. It's all there. It tells you exactly what you need to do. And even portals are, depending upon the payer, an 80 to 90% solution. They don't have all the information even on the portal, and some calls are still needed. We find providers all the time that are paying $3.75 a call to MedeAnalytics or somebody like that to call and gather the full benefits information. Now those calls in theory should only cost you about 25 cents because you're only searching for that last 10% of information if you're using the full eligibility response. So automating that, creating a great user experience to be able to consume it, workflow by exception to be able to create efficiency around it. And then the journey doesn't stop there, it continues. So once you have a full benefits verification response, now you can do all kinds of things with that relative to integration of treatment planning and claim pricing, to extending from a communication perspective, patient financing options before they even walk in the door because you're starting the process from the schedule. So there's lots of things that we can build off of the eligibility AI platform as well.
I saw the press release, I think maybe it was earlier this year, about the partnership between DentalXChange and Zentis. Can you talk a little bit about what that means and maybe explain how it looks for a dental practice? So you have your practice management vendor, now you have Zentis, you have DentalXChange. How are they all working together? And as you envision this as a product in market, are you contracting with multiple vendors here? Is there one point where you just do this directly through DentalXChange and you use some of Zentis technology in the background, and as the practice, you don't necessarily know? Like, how does it all work and what's the benefit?
I'll start with the problem that we're solving and work backwards. So if you go read the CAQH 2023 index, it will say in there the adoption of electronic payments from payer to provider from 2019 through 2023. And in 2019, I think it was 15%. And in 2023, it's 21%. So think about that. It's the year 2024, and only 21% of payments that happen from an insurance company back to the provider is electronic. That is crazy. So you have to start to wonder, well, why? Why is that the case? Why shouldn't electronic payments be more efficient for both the payer as well as the provider than printing out EOBs with perforated checks, receiving them in the mail, paying US postage, hand keying things in, creating a deposit, taking it to the bank each night? Like, that seems nuts to me. What would be driving that kind of behavior? And there's a myriad of reasons that we believe that that is happening. We've done a lot of research around this within our own client base. One of the major pain points is that there really hasn't been an automated electronic payment reconciliation solution in market. And in fact, for most practices, if they opt in for electronic EFTs, the reconciliation part becomes more painful because now you get the ERAs separated from the payment. In the down market, especially the really small DSOs or independent offices, you have to give somebody access to the bank so they can see what actually got paid. Independent entrepreneurs don't necessarily want to do that. And then the reconciliation process has to be stitched together, and it's more cumbersome than if you just get a paper EOB and a check. And so therein lies what Zentis brings to the table. Zentis has automated a way to get into bank accounts using more contemporary things that we've all probably heard of, whether it's Zelle or Plate or other mechanisms to get into the bank without having to give access to somebody with, to the entire account. They can extract out those payments. We've fully integrated our ERAs as well as our claims to the Zentis platform so they can do all the auto reconciliation and they can create a posting file. What we're working on with you guys is the ability to take that posting file and auto post it all the way back to the ledger. And so then again, you're back to I only work exceptions. I get paid electronically. It posts all the way back to the ledger through DentalXChange's integrations with you guys. Some of the magic is provided by Zentis, and we believe that can move the meter materially in terms of the adoption of electronic payments. And ultimately, there are entities like Zealous and Echo and Instamed that are out partnering with payers in a way where they're really incented to push virtual credit cards. I'm sure there are use cases for virtual credit cards that might be good for the provider on a one-off basis. But overall, I would tell any provider, never accept a virtual credit card. You're paying 2.5%, 3% for the virtual card. You're now paying another 2.5% to 3% to process the virtual card by the merchant. So now you're giving up 5 to 6% of your revenue just to get paid 10 days sooner, 14 days sooner. 86% of claims in dental get paid in less than 21 days. It's like 98% of claims in the United States in dental get paid in less than 30 days. And not just claims, but claim amounts. So it's not like, large claims are out there for 60 or 90 days. It's literally 98% of claims and 98% of claim amounts get paid in less than 30 days. There's not an AR problem, generally speaking, in dentistry. And so to pay that much to process a virtual credit card, it's crazy. We think by solving the reconciliation process, downstream and moving that meter, we actually have runway to go back to payers and start to facilitate electronic transactions at the payer level as well and get even closer marriage to those things.
I don't think our team talks all that often during the demo process about some of the credentialing functionality that exists within DentalXChange as well. But can you speak to that, touch on some of the problems that you're solving, and if there's been any kind of new advancements with that recently?
So we've had a credentialing, an all-payer credentialing platform in market for a number of years. Our go-to-market had always been to the payer. And so today there's 9 Delta plans and 1 commercial plan that use our credentialing platform. It is the only way you can credential. For example, with Delta Dental of Colorado, when you credential, the only way to do it is on our platform. If you go to the portal for Delta Dental Colorado and say you want to credential and you start to navigate that, you're actually using our platform. But it has been an all-payer credentialing platform. What we did this year was sort of decide, let's really pivot. We'll still sell to payers and hopefully they'll use us for some adjudication of that credentialing in the background. But let's really start to emphasize direct to provider. And so like right now, if you go to DentalXChange.com in the top right-hand corner, it says credential now. You click on that button and within a couple clicks, you're credentialing all payers. And, there's cool things in there around just data reuse. Once you've credentialed with one provider, when you start to credential with the next provider, it reuses the data that you just typed in. So you have to keep retyping over and over again. There's a secure communication portal for you to interact with those payers if questions come up, things of that nature. And what we look forward to doing with Planet DDS is a lot of the information that needs to be populated into, the varying payer forms for credentialing already exist inside of the practice management system. And so we'd love to create and launch an API that essentially pre-populates the credentialing platform with a lot of the information that's already needed, and credentialing becomes that much faster. In the DSO market, this is super important. Credentialing is the first step to being able to get paid. And so your time to cash when you're credentialing new providers into your network, that's huge. If it takes 60 days versus 20 days, that's extra 40 days that they're waiting for those providers to be productive.
Now, there's been a lot of talk here at Planet DDS about the different APIs and deeper integrations that we're doing with DentalXChange. 2 of those are the Claim Validation API and Claim Status API. Have those always been around? Is it just that we are now looking to leverage them in a different way? Is this new technology that's been developed on the DentalXChange side?
Well, on the Claim Status side, we've always had Claim Status EDI capability. But for the Denticon base, in order to use it, you would have had to come into Claim Connect, and find a claim that you wanted claim status on, click a button, it would have reached out to the payer and given you a claim status response on where's that claim reside in the payer's ecosystem. The API that we've launched is now fully integrated into Denticon, and it can be configured from an administration perspective so that it's constant and it's integrated back to what Mark was showing, the task manager. And so for every claim that's submitted, that task manager is tracking that claim. And on the back end, it's configured to leverage on a scheduled basis the claim status inquiry, which is constantly updating that task manager. So again, it creates task management workflow. Instead of you having to leave Denticon, go to Claim Connect, log in, figure out which claims do you need to follow up on, what are you curious about, you can manage it all right out of the task manager. And so the newer API around claim status that was launched 1.5 years ago, and certainly you guys are the first ones to be consuming it like you are. I love the way that that's behind the task manager and creating real workflow there for them. And on the claim validation one, that's what we talked about earlier. That's also launched a couple of years ago in terms of replicating the traditional file-based way that we would integrate with people, and all of that intelligence sitting in Claim Connect, exposing it to Denticon so that it can be, workflow can be there. It's going to be huge. And again, you guys are the first to be consuming it the way that you are as well.
So you guys work with all these payers. You have close relationships with them. When you look at some of the technology from the payer side, do you see them leaning into any new technology? Is there anything that is advancing on that front that will make other people in this industry's life easier moving forward?
I see them leaning into technology. I saw on the screen earlier today, Overjet, Pearl, Vidya. They're leaning into that technology. The use case is completely different. And I wouldn't prescribe that it's great for the provider. I don't believe that it's necessarily bad for the provider, but they're essentially, the use case for that kind of technology for the payer is, let me see if I can automate my medical policy around claim review, which is great. It creates efficiency, it lowers cost. It does have the risk of driving up claim rejection rates for providers. That's an interesting one though, because I believe if you think about who we are in the industry, we're an interoperability platform. You can call us a clearinghouse, and certainly from a legacy perspective, that's what we've been. But in today's world, we're an interoperability platform that continues to launch additional capabilities and transactions that are needed for payer-provider transparency. And in the middle of that is that rules engine. It's the claim validation API that you guys are now consuming. That is an enormous rules engine. There are tens of thousands of payer rules behind that. And to the extent that those technology platforms are automated, medical policy around claim review, that's nothing more than rules. The use case side for revenue opportunity identification at chair side for the use of AI on attachments, we sit in the middle, and it would be very easy for us to work with those entities to marry those two together and expose it to Denticon users in real time. So it'd be great if you're identifying additional revenue opportunities because AI is doing magic on the attachment, and at the same time, bumping up against that particular patient's payer's claim review rules so that if I do prescribe this treatment plan based upon what this x-ray is telling me, you're going to have all the things necessary in the claim to pass the payer's claim review rules too. And that way it takes the concept of weaponization out of the conversation, especially at the payer side. We are well positioned for that, especially now. We're on the way to 35 million claims a month by the end of this year. And that is a key area which I see it being adopted on both sides for totally separate use cases, but they should be married together. At the end of the day, providers should get paid timely, accurately, and efficiently for the good work that they do. And if those use cases are disparate and not tied together in some way, they do fight against one another to some extent. I'll just be blunt. Do I see payers adopting technology that somehow helps providers, especially in the context of revenue cycle management? No.
Do you see, or can you envision where there's options for real-time claim adjudication, or options where, I go in and I get a treatment, I get a crown, and I don't get billed for the remaining balance afterwards because the amount that I paid was exact right at the outset?
I don't see anything in the next 5 to 10 years that's going to happen all the way back to the payer that would enable that. However, that's in our radar. So when I think about where we're at today, by the end of this year, we'll have ramped to somewhere between 70 and 80% of all dental transactions. We have our eye on leveraging the data to reverse engineer using AI to very accurate fee schedules by payer, by plan, universally across the United States. And the minute that we have that, I can adjudicate the claim. and I can interact on the provider's half to go collect from the payer. I can pay instantly. That won't be free, but is there a path to that? Yeah, there is, and it's coming. Do I think it's going to happen with payers like it would in the pharmacy? You go to the CVS pharmacy, you pay, you don't get a bill 2 weeks later. It says, oh, we didn't charge you enough. Like they know exactly what to pay you, and it's adjudicated real time. We can enable that because of the disparate systems, the legacy systems, the tech debt, and all those sorts of things that exist inside of a payer. I just don't think that's going to happen anytime soon in their four walls, but there's innovators like ourselves that can make it happen.
You might have already answered this question, but is there anything else that, as you kind of are looking forward, that you're really excited about, that you think is going to just provide great benefit to the industry, something that maybe you guys are working on, other companies, anything in general that you just think is going to be an awesome addition that doesn't exist maybe today?
Yeah, the one I just talked about is going to be huge in our minds. I think the use cases around AI on attachments is awesome. I love it. And so that's been a game changer. I think AI has the opportunity to change the game around revenue cycle in a myriad of ways too. One of them I just went through in terms of a use case around fee schedule enablement. I think automation around that revenue cycle management process, even automating some of the tasks that take humans to do today, is not that far down the road. And so there's a lot of efficiency gains coming with market consolidation in the way of DSOs. Independent offices don't demand great sophistication. And the analogy I would give is on the hospital health system side. Epic, Cerner, Allscripts, McKesson, Meditech, Greenway, Athena, you just keep going down the list. They automated electronic payment reconciliation 4 decades ago because hospitals and health systems existed. Large entities that would demand sophistication around the revenue cycle. That hasn't existed in dental. Dental's been an independent entrepreneur market forever. With consolidation and the move to DSOs, those DSOs will demand sophisticated technology. The gentleman from Smile Brands was on stage today talking about the stack and how important that was so that you're not just hiring FTEs. And so there is going to be a mass adoption in the next 5, 6, 7 years and a need for much more advanced technology around revenue cycle. And I also tell you this too, totally my opinion, a war happened on the medical side from 2002 through recent between 2 entities, Epic and Cerner, to win footprints around EMRs and patient accounting platforms across hospitals and health systems. Epic throttled Cerner. Why did Epic throttle Cerner? Revenue cycle, patient accounting. It had nothing to do with clinicals, 0 to do with clinicals. And I heard you make the statement earlier today that in some RFPs or some procurement processes today in competitive environments, in the DSO world, you don't find clinical people swarming those all the time. It's really around how efficient can you run the business. And I will tell you that my own personal opinion is over the next 5 to 10 years, those decisions won't have anything to do with clinical. It'll be how efficient can you make revenue cycle? Because this is a business, it's not a small market anymore. And so the focus on automation around revenue cycle will be very real over the next 2 to 5 to 6 years.
So maybe taking the other side, as opposed to kind of what you're most excited about or seeing out there that you think is going to be a great value add to the industry, what sort of threats do you see?
So I have 21 years in healthcare IT, all on the medical side. I'm 2.5 years into dental. And coming over to dental, I've been amazed by the lack of regulatory oversight that the medical side receives, especially as it pertains to the way insurance works, payers, those sorts of things. There's not a lot of risk transference with dental insurance. I've been in conversations where people don't think dental insurance is even insurance. I think the biggest threat is I'm paying Aetna a premium. I hope that my premium is being managed in a way that enables an in-network provider that I go to understand what they should charge me with accuracy, timeliness. I hope that they are paid for the services that they do for me with accuracy and timeliness. And it just seems like there's something broke in that ecosystem between payers and providers, specifically in dentistry. It is entirely too hard. And the idea of payer-provider transparency, that as a known term, has existed on the medical side since Obamacare went into effect in March of 2010. I don't hear people talking about payer-provider transparency in dental, ever. That needs to exist. And there probably needs to be a little bit more regulatory oversight, especially on the insurance side, so that there's transparent and fair and equitable treatment of providers. The risk is that, I think.
So last question, and this question that I ask pretty much all the guests on the podcast, but where do you go to learn? You've been a CEO for many years. You've been in healthcare for a very long time. You kind of have to stay on top of all of these things. But from like a professional or a personal perspective, how do you continue growing?
I set aside time and I read articles. Last night when you guys were at dinner, I couldn't make that. I was sitting at the bar reading an article about what's broken healthcare and the fact that last year we spent $4.5 trillion on healthcare. We spend in the United States twice as much per human on healthcare than our peers. I didn't know that before last night. I was just sitting there at the bar reading. And so I read a lot in terms of just articles and outlets that are dental specific. And some of those just stick with me and they stack up. And then they create ideation with me and my teams around, man, that's a real problem. Let's talk to some clients and credential that really is a problem. And maybe we should innovate around that. And then I talk to people. I'm an introvert by nature, just sit at a table and listen to everybody else. And if I'm asked to contribute, I will. But in that listening, I do pay attention and take a lot away from other people's conversations. And I try my best to be a good listener as well.
Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask Paul?
So one of the challenges that I see that's actually beyond the technology side is a role inside the practice that someone has to keep up on getting accurate fee schedules, getting the accurate fee schedules into the software. It's easy to upload, et cetera, but keeping track of and with all the credentialing changes that are happening all of the time, thank you, Five Lakes and all these other vendors, it's changing every minute. And you never can say, okay, it'll be exactly 60 days. And now Dr. X will be on Delta or he'll be off or whatever. Do you have any expertise or vision, or are you seeing a solution somewhere that helps the individual practice? Because someone right now is just manually trying to keep up with, wait a minute, what are we in and out of network with per provider? Do we have the right darn fee schedule? And is it actually uploaded in the software? Not just that, but for the right locations. I just see this as a complete nightmare. And it's tough, the work that I'm doing. I can't solve it with technology. This is a role. And then I get back to the staffing challenges because you're like, I can't even hire an office manager. Now you want me to put somebody full-time just to push numbers around? I'd love to hear, what is best practice? How can I best support customers that are really struggling to get this right?
I think it is one of the hardest things to get right. And I'm not an expert, so I'm going to be way over my skis here. But I think one of the other challenges is stacked network. So even if you do have the fee schedule and you've got an appropriate load and you've hired the right person and they're trying to track it, it doesn't mean that's what you're going to get paid off of. And so I do think the answer ultimately actually is technology. And it's someone in the industry who has 80% of the market's claims and 80% of the market's ERAs, and understanding on a routine basis how those things are actually getting paid to reverse engineer on a per patient basis by CDD code, by zip code, by network that they are submitting claims into, what will actually happen versus what's supposed to happen. The supposed to happen, if you had all the right people and you were tracking things, you could track supposed to happen with people and fee schedules. That's not what actually happens. In fact, it probably very rarely happens in today's day and age. And those stacked networks just keep getting worse. I've actually thought about monetizing our network into a leased network. I look at the United States in terms of where we would have a heat map. Well, now the whole thing's red. And whether it's regionally or nationally, there's really nothing that would prevent me from creating my own network that I could lease out to TPAs, to small plans, even national plans in some cases. And then I have the fee schedule because I'm the creator of this fee schedule. But it wouldn't prohibit somebody who's on my fee schedule from getting paid from somebody else's fee schedule if I'm part of the stacked network. That's that network thing. That's lack of regulatory oversight. I think if you're a dentist and you enroll in somebody's network, that's the network that you should get paid off of. You shouldn't be paid something lower because of a stacked network that's in there.
So the follow-up piece too is, how do you get the right rapport? How could you show? Because I think I get that question a lot. We're trying to evaluate, are we getting paid on the right fee schedule? Not just are we getting paid on the right fee schedule? And that is a devil of a problem to actually go back. What should you have been paid on? Because it may or may not be what you actually have in your system because that claim was 2 months old and all the moving parts of that. So if there's a solution that already exists in the right report in Denticon, I would love to learn it because every customer I've ever touched, they would like to know because everyone's getting into Carrington and think they're going to get XYZ more, those kind of pieces. But Paul, if there's another solution of how can I get that solution no matter the client, right? It's another challenge that I'm facing is specific to the report.
I'm unaware of another solution. I'm aware of a potential solution, and I'm aware of who has the data to make that solution exist.
Any other questions? Last question, Miss Ashley.
I have a question. Since you say you guys process 80% of most of the dental claims that are out there, I've been in dentistry 30 years. This is year number 30 for me. Back then, most people had a $1,500 max. We still have that same max. Are the payers not seeing that dentistry costs more and employers aren't giving us a bigger maximum, I guess? Do you see that changing at all in the future? Or will we always have, in medical, we don't really have a max. We have an out-of-pocket max. But in dental, it's still that same $15,000 to $2,000 that we've had for the last 30 years, yet dentistry costs a lot more now.
Again, when I think about this industry, and I made the comment a while ago, I've been in a lot of conversations where people don't think dental insurance is real insurance. And it's actually that right there. If in medical, you end up having something catastrophic happen or something where it's going to cost you over a period of time, $1 million, well, guess what? Your insurance covers it. That's insurance. That's not the case in dental. Like you hit that $1,500 max, you're done. And so we all pay in, but it doesn't all get paid out. And I don't know what the answer to that is. The answer on the medical side was within Obamacare, the MLR requirements, the medical loss ratio requirements, and that 80% of your premium had to be spent on medical care and only 20% can go to administrative care. It doesn't appear to me that that regulatory statute exists on the dental side. I don't ever hear anybody talk about MLR and dental, other than making payers pay against an MLR requirement. I don't really know what an answer is other than more regulatory and oversight. Like they're for-profit companies, or even if they're not for-profit companies, make no mistake, they care and they're trying to keep as much of that premium as they possibly can.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And we appreciate the partnership.
Thank you.
The Dental Economist Show is brought to you by Planet DDS. To find out more about how cloud-based dental software by Planet DDS helps unleash dentists and their staff to focus on patient care, visit www.planetdds.com. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes by following wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening.